Welcome to Dartmyth. Chapter 1. One last time. Alexander Grimm. Are we really going to do this again? Alexander stands on the back porch of the home overlooking the river below, cigarette in hand. His wife, Molly, is having a manic episode and tearing the kitchen apart looking for something. The words are flying from her mouth at 100 miles a minute as she rambles on. All I'm saying, Alex, is this. Molly flings a pan over her left shoulder. It bounces off of the hardwood floor with a massive thud. You can't handle me and the girls, why don't you just leave? Why do we always wind up here? Alexander yells to her through the open glass door, you know that I love you all. I just don't see why you don't follow the doctor's directions. Maybe then you'd see what I see. It's almost like you live in your own little world, devoid of any reality. Molly stops throwing things and stands stark still, almost like a deer in headlights. She doesn't utter a word or make a move. The emotional flares in her mind fire sporadically as she tries to focus on his words. The electrical signals seem to connect once more and she throws a nearby steak knife at the doorway. She storms out of the kitchen and onto the back porch, several inches from Alexander. The anger and hurt is clearly visible contained within her brown eyes. Her internal struggle seems to pull her facial muscles in different directions, leaving her wearing a disconcerting smirk. Dear, do you know why? Why what? Molly, what am I missing out on here? Alexander lights up another smoke as he flicks his last butt into the river below. The cold water engulfs the flame with an inaudible hiss. You act like I want to be like this. You pretend like you're the bigger person as you look down on everyone else and act like everything you do is better. I have news for you, you aren't better than me. Molly winds her hand back and places an open-handed smack across his right cheek. The cigarette falls from between his lips from the impact. He has become so used to this behavior, from her. This has been a constant in their lives, for years now. How the two of them ever got together, let alone built any kind of a life, is still a mystery to him. It is quite possible that if it wasn't for their two girls, and the one on the way, that he would have left years ago. Who is he kidding though? His love for this woman is inescapable. He knows how deeply his feelings run and he knows that she feels the same way. Alexander walks into the kitchen and grabs a cold beer from the fridge without saying a word to his wife. She remains on the porch knowing that he will shortly return. He catches his breath and tries to collect his thoughts as he rejoins her outside. It's like this, I love you and you know it. He lets out a sigh before continuing. I understand that you don't have control over whatever this is. He waves his hands in circles in front of her. I get that. But I also understand that Dr. Goodman has been working with you and he told me that you are making great strides. When you return from his office, you're in a good mood and seem to be able to focus. Molly crosses her arms and digs her nails into the insides of her forearms. She grits her teeth as the anger rises once more. What is your point? Well, how come that never seems to last, and why have you decided to go back off of your medication? Alex pops the top of his beer and takes a healthy gulp, preparing for another tirade of unregulated emotions. See, there you go again. You're judging me again. Tell me, why am I not good enough for you? Molly digs her nails in deeper, breaking skin and causing blood to slowly pour around her fingertips. An angelic head pops her head from around the sliding door. Mommy, I'm hungry. Her words are a sweet escape from the tense setting. Her blonde curls frame her innocent face. She slowly shuffles to the outside of the door to join her parents on the porch. Molly's complete demeanor changes as she notices her daughter. Grace, baby, mommy is working on supper. She scoops up the small girl and hugs her tightly. Dino nuggies, Grace smiles. Yes, and French fries. Molly replies. Alexander's heart breaks as he watches the scene unfold in front of him. This is the reason, his entire reason for continuing down this path. These are the moments that make all of the pain and insanity make sense. Supper goes off without struggle as Molly is able to focus on her love for her family and maintain a pleasant state of mind. It causes her to zone out several times throughout the meal, but the stories from her girls seem to fill in the gaps. Alexander doesn't say much, as to not set his wife off again, but still manages to establish his presence to the kids. An occasional head nod or word of agreement keeps them talking. Their babbling is overwhelming but soothing to him, all at the same time. After dinner, he tucks them in, makes sure to give them both a dozen forehead kisses, and heaven forbid he forget to hug every stuffed animal in the house. Once the dog comforts himself on their bedroom floor and they are good and relaxed, he sees himself out of the room. He finds Molly sitting on the couch in the living room, staring off into space, seemingly fixated with something on the wall. Alexander tries to follow her gaze and notices that she's staring at his Employee of the Year award from 3 years ago. You used to love that job. Molly never looks up at Alexander as he walks into the room. She's fully aware of his presence but decides that it isn't worth the energy to turn toward him. I guess I did, at one point. He sits on the couch next to her and places his hand on her leg, attempting to show her a sense of comfort. She flinches at his touch but still doesn't lose track of what she's staring at. What changed, Alex? At the job, or in a general sense? Alexander moves his hand up and down her thigh, hoping to pull her away from her fixation. Both, I guess. She finally turns her gaze to him and he has to swallow a nervous lump in his throat once he sees her frantic expression. Alex knows that this won't end well. The mania is still in full force and is now aimed directly at him, this time without the buffer of their girls. He thinks hard about how to handle the situation without making it worse. He knows that every word, every inflection of his voice, every facial expression has to be highly calculated. Only one slip-up will cause her to spiral so far out of control that he'll be having to hide every sharp object in the house. I am still happy, my love. Alexander smiles at her. You're so full of bullshit, Alexander Dwayne, and we both know it. Molly grabs his hand off of her and slams it onto his own lap. You hate your job, this town, and I know you hate me. Molly, I don't hate you. I wish you could truly understand how much I care about and love you. You are everything to me. You and the girls are my entire world. Alexander tries to hold her hand but it just causes her to look away from him. She has already began to close up on him. Please don't. Without another word, Molly gets off of the couch and walks out of the living room, seemingly into the girls' room. Alexander decides it might be best just to stay put for a while. This proves to be a mistake because 10 minutes later, he sees her shuffling 2 half-asleep children out of their room and toward the front door. Molly Sue, what in the hell are you doing? It is after midnight and the girls have school tomorrow. Alexander jumps up from his spot and tries to close the distance between himself and his family. I've had enough, Alex. You have tormented me enough, in my own home, and in front of them. Molly holds tightly onto the girls as she pushes them out of the house with her. Alex doesn't have enough time to catch up to them as the car starts and screeches out of the driveway and into the dark of the night.